Jim Graham here for Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks. On the line, I have a special guest joining me. He will be fighting on RFA 19 on October 10th on Access TV. He is Dan Moret. And Dan, thanks for coming on Beyond the Cage.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me on the show.
Now, of course, we have summer wrapping up and fall is almost upon us here in 2014, but I was wondering, how was your summer?
It was real good. Got a lot of fun stuff in and a lot of good training as well, so that makes for a good summer.
Did you do anything special, go on a vacation or anything?
Made a couple trips, and recently went out to Sacramento. Got to go check out the UFC thanks to one of my awesome sponsors and get some training in at Team Alpha Male, so that was real good. That was a fun time, like being out in California, so that was awesome.
Now, at Team Alpha Male, how were those practices with like TJ Dillashaw and Uriah Faber and Joseph Benavidez and Danny Castillo and all those guys?
It was real good. It was awesome. Got in a couple. I was there for a weekend. My other teammate, Andre Tiva, is still out there now. He's fights next weekend. He's just coming back tomorrow, I believe. He stayed out there for a little longer than I did, but we got some great practices in, and then they Dwayne Ludwig's seminar too, so that was great. Got to do that and get some good sparring in with obviously some top level guys, and it's always nice to get to another gym, no matter how, like what the quality of it really is, and get some different looks. But especially when you get out to a gym with top level talent and UFC level guys, you get to test yourself against the best in the world. So it was a great time. I learned a lot and really got some good work in there.
Now, I saw that you went to Minnesota State. Are you still going there, or did you end up graduating and getting a degree already?
No, I went there for a short time. I'm from down in Mankato, Minnesota. Was down there going to school, and that's when I was working at the same time, kind of going back and forth on what I really wanted to do, and that was sort of when I ran into MMA and got started in that, and kind of took that career path. It was a choice of you can only do MMA so long. That's kind of a young man's game, so kind of went with that and running with it while I can, and we'll see where it takes me. And then if going back to school is something I look at doing later on in life, and then finishing up a degree and learn a little bit. It's never too late to learn and get that done. So I was down there for a short time, but now up in Minneapolis and doing the MMA full time.
Now, did you wrestle or anything at Minnesota State?
No, I wrestled in high school, and that was as far as that really took me. I was a decent high school wrestler, not great. Definitely didn't have the work ethic I do now, and I did well, not awesome. A couple times, and was close to making the state tournament things, and obviously Minnesota's a top wrestling state in the country, and really got some great guys, but I never really put in the work that I could have and should have, and that's just one of the things that kind of fuels my career now, is looking back on that and knowing that I could have done more, and you treasure the memories of being in high school and being on the team, and it's all your friends that you've grown up with, and it's something that I look back on and look at those matches, and I think about that when I'm training now and I'm fighting, that I really have to put it all in, because you can look back at it. It's nice to be able to look back on something now and see, okay, I should have done this. I wanted to do more, and to apply that to, your training now and say, well, I don't want to 10 years from now look back on the MMA and say, oh, well, I could have done more. I could have, went here and did this or tried that or put more into it. So it's something that really helped me a lot. Obviously wrestling in college would have been great and a huge help, but not making it to that level and doing it is something that also really helped me. So it kind of worked out in that way.
Now, besides wrestling, is there any other martial art that you started doing before you got into MMA?
No, I never did any before I got into MMA. I was always a real big boxing fan, staying up later than I should have as a kid, watching, Big Fights Boxing Hour and things like that on TV, and then had a heavy bag when I was young, and something I got when I was, 15, and spending too late at nights downstairs punching a heavy bag and telling my mom I was sick for school the next day because I was up too late. But, that was something that I did, and then just when I started MMA, it was kind of when I got into traditional Muay Thai with my first coach down in Mankato, Ray White, who really emphasized, the training of the original, like just the martial arts and getting into that more than just MMA or fighting, and the importance of becoming a martial artist more than just a fighter. So yeah, I got a real good experience in that and the traditional arts of that, and really doing it strict Muay Thai. So that was a big help for me as well.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, you were going to school, kind of working, and you made the path and career change to try to do this MMA thing. And what was the tipping point for you to pursue this as a career?
Well, it was always something inside me after high school that I wanted to compete. I wanted to challenge myself and do something. And it's hard to find anything that really satisfied that, what you got from sports and competition. And I just felt like I needed something else to do. And when I found MMA and when I first got into it, and I was like, okay, the first time I was trying it, I was like, this is what I really want to do. I felt like I was a pretty decent high school football player. I was undersized. I was never a big guy, but I was a pretty good high school football player, and I was a decent wrestler. But I felt like fighting, once I got into it, and martial arts was like what I was meant to do. This is what I'm really good at. And I knew that as soon as I started it, and I fell in love with it. And it was just, that was the point where I said, I really want to do this. This is something I want to pursue and really, make a career out of. And it really changed my life just going into it. I was never a real bad kid or a person who never got in real big trouble, but I was never a model citizen either. I was, after high school, you're obviously partying and doing these things and running around, and you kind of feel like, after a while that, what am I really doing? Am I doing something with my life that's important, that is more than just living? And when I found martial arts, I found that thing that made it different. That was really something, and it's something that I want to pursue. Even, I want to fight, and obviously, my goal is to be UFC champion. But after that, I'd like to own a gym, run a gym, and make martial arts my life, because I really enjoy the coaching side of it as well, and helping people because of what it gave me. I would like to share that with others as well. And it's something I really enjoy, is coaching guys and cornering and helping other people out. There's just a satisfaction you get from that is really hard to find anywhere else, and it's a great feeling. So it really, it's changed my life in that way, and it's something I really look forward to as well, just taking MMA and turning it into my life, and more than MMA, just all of martial arts is, it's kind of consumed my life, and I think it's a great thing.
Jim Graham talking with Dan Moret here on Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks. And are there any fighters that you look up to in particular?
Yeah, a lot of the early fighters I really looked up to when I first started and going into it. I'd have to say Dan Henderson was a guy I looked up to a ton, because he was a grinder and just a hard worker and a wrestler that became a martial artist, and obviously his knockout power and is an awesome fighter. And a lot of the early guys that were in Pride, I love those fights still. I got a pretty good collection of the old Pride DVDs, and I watched those, and those are some of the guys I really look up to, because they were doing it before it was something that was cool to do. Before it was the mainstream kind of a deal. It was like they did it because they loved it. And that was kind of how I got into it too. It wasn't like I thought, oh, this will be cool. People will think I'm neat because I do this. It was something that, it was inside me. I wanted to compete, and I felt like those guys, before it was mainstream that were doing it, like they had the same desire. So that's kind of some of the guys I looked up to, and Henderson being probably the main one.
Now, your nickname is the Hitman, and I was wondering, is there any story about how you got that nickname?
Oh, it kind of it came about just sort of in high school. I really think it just kind of came from, I was always kind of smaller and I was going after it all the time. Even in football, I was never the best guy on the team or the leading tackler, but I played all the special teams, and I was always going after guys. I ended up getting a penalty for clipping or something, hitting guys, because I was always looking for the guy, running after him and on a kickoff or something, who was chasing, our guy returning it, and was just looking to light guys up. That was, my favorite part about it. Lucky enough, I had a couple of real good teammates, friends of mine, who were, running kickoffs back all the time. So there'd be guys chasing them, just trailing behind and not looking for guys coming to block. So I had plenty of opportunities in that in football. And then it really came from lacrosse. A friend of mine, Scott Lauder, and I, who were at wrestle together, we weren't doing a spring sport. We weren't playing baseball or in track. And we kind of found lacrosse from a couple of the other younger guys who were on a wrestling team as well. They said, well, you should go and try it. Well, we only played it for a year, and obviously we weren't that skilled or technical catching and passing the ball and all the intricacies of the game. But what we could do is run and hit guys. And in lacrosse, it's basically wide open to do that whenever. So we fell in love with it, and the coach would kind of tell me, point out, okay, number 7 over there's got 3 goals on us. Hey, Hitman, number 7. And that was kind of my thing, was go put a hit on him and make sure he doesn't get near the net again. So that sort of came from that.
Now, your fight at RFA 19 isn't until October 10th with the weigh-ins on the 9th, and I was wondering, what are you doing to keep your weight on track until the 9th?
It's really just a diet and a lifestyle. Once I made the transition to fight at 145 pounds, I was always pretty good about it, but with the dieting and staying on track, I'm not a guy that kind of binges after a fight and takes a whole month to eat ice cream and pizzas and stuff. It's just it's something that a healthy lifestyle I try to live all the time. And when I first made the transition to 145 pounds, I fought my first between amateur and professional. It was 18 fights at 155. Just kind of looking ahead, and when I first was getting a contract for the RFA and stuff, I was looking at, okay, these guys who are at the next level, some of these guys are just huge. They're big wrestlers, guys that weigh 190 pounds and cut down to 155. I thought, if I can make it, maybe 145 is a better weight class for me to be the biggest guy to beat. There's not a lot of guys 6 feet tall that fight this weight class. I thought maybe that can be an advantage of mine, so I started researching into it and trying to be smarter with it. No, not just, typical, I eat healthy, I don't eat, garbage food, but, I'm looking into things like nutrient timing, when should I eat what, and what things are going to actually fuel my body for the result that I'm trying to get. So, just the diet and that stuff, and obviously training hard is a great way to keep your weight in check and doing it well. And, I get a couple good practices in the day. I'm there in the morning and go hard through the afternoon, and then little break, and then back in the gym at night. So yeah, I'm right on track with weight now. It gets to the point where 3 weeks a month out, I got a certain weight that I want to be at, and I was kind of getting under that a little too, and so I've been upping what I eat again, and it's real nice to know that right on track, right where I want to be.
Now, you have fought for the RFA before, but this time around for RFA 19, you'll be fighting in your home state of Minnesota, and that's got to be nice this time around for them, huh?
Yeah, it's a huge thing for me to be able to fight for both on the national stage and with a great organization and locally in front of the hometown fans. Being able, not all of them always able to travel. I've had fights over in Wisconsin and down in Nebraska and things like that, and people can't always make the trek. And it's really nice to be able to fight, not only locally and in front of everyone, but also still to be nationally televised fight and to get that big exposure from it is awesome. It's great. And it's awesome to have an organization like RFA come to Minnesota. A state where there's a ton of good fighters and great talent. I really think that it's going to be an awesome event at Mystic Lake Casino, which is an awesome venue. When there's MMA fights there, is great. I have not got to fight there. I fought down the road at Canterbury Park, right next to it, but I've cornered fights and coached guys at Mystic Lake, and it's an awesome venue, and it's going to be great with an organization like the RFA there. It's just going to put it over the top, I think, and it's something I really look forward to is putting on a show in front of the fans here, in the home state, just about 45 minutes north of my hometown. So.
Jim Graham talking with Dan Moret here on Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks. And your last fight, Dan, was at RFA 13, and that happened to be the first loss of your career. And I was wondering, what have you learned from that fight?
I learned a lot from that fight. It was a fight where I felt like, I lost. If I'm looking at the scorecard, it went to a decision. If I'm scoring it myself, I get the fight to Luke Sanders. But it was a fight where I lost, but I didn't feel like I got beat. I sort of, in a way, let that loss happen. It was, it was before that I had, between amateur and professional, I'd won 20 fights in a row. And the first round I had early success. I had dropped him 3 times. He was on the mat, and then I felt like I was in total control of the fight. I had a few submission attempts in there. And, it got to the point where I was in control and I felt real good. So there wasn't really a sense of urgency. And with winning 20 fights in a row, it kind of felt like all those other fights. Like, okay, I got this. I felt superior. Like, okay, I'm a better fighter than him. I'm not in danger. So I wasn't being real urgent. It was like, okay, just don't make mistakes. You're going to catch him. You've already dropped him a few times. I felt like I was hitting him with everything I threw, and I was landing, right when I wanted to. So I felt real good about how the fight was going. The second round, he got a takedown and inside control and was obviously he's hurt from the first round. He was holding on for dear life, and, watching his tapes, he had finished guys before with TKO and on the ground. He's got good ground and pound. He's a strong wrestler and obviously a good fighter. He's undefeated. He won his last fight again in RFA last month. And I just knew, like, okay, let's not make a mistake here on the ground, get too anxious and get caught with some, big elbows or punches on the floor. So I kind of tied him up and he sat in the half guard for the whole second round and got that round back. Still felt like, okay, he hasn't really done anything to me. I'm still winning the fight. I've done all, I've landed all the strikes. I've went for all the submissions. He got one takedown. All right, I'm still in control. And obviously, like I said, with the winning every other fight, 20 fights before that, I felt like, okay, this is just going to go like all the other fights, and there wasn't a real sense of urgency. And the third round was kind of back and forth, and he was pushing me up against the cage a lot. And I was like, let's not get crazy. Don't go for anything stupid on the fence here and get taken down again, because if he takes you down, he's going to hold you again and lose. And, without having that sense of urgency, before I knew it, 15 minutes was up, and they're going to score 2 rounds for him. And it was, what I learned from that is just that I got to get back to, I'm a long fighter and a striker, and I feel like I'm a calculated fighter and a smart fighter. But I also have to get back to exploding on guys and looking for finishes. Obviously, I was still looking for finishes in every fight, but I wasn't, I wasn't taking the risks. With moving up to the RFA and fighting national level competition, I wanted to fight smart. But part of fighting smart is also putting guys away. If I finish them, then obviously, that's a smart way to fight. Then he's no longer in the fight. So as I learned to kind of blend things together, I need to get after it and not let, get complacent there. Like, okay, you got a lead now. Let's fight smart and score. And I wasn't worried about, okay, just not let him take you down. Well, I should have went after a little more and finished it. And, it's just some strategy things that changed it. And it was, it kind of reinvigorated that desire. You lose, and it burns inside me still because of the fight that, as I said, where I felt like I kind of gave it away. I gave it to him, like, all the credit in the world to him. He did what he had to do to win the fight, but I still feel that I'm a better fighter than he is. I mean, he moved down weight class, so I'd love to get a rematch. I don't know if that's likely, but like, that's a fight I really want back. If I would have got in there and he handled me for 3 rounds and totally dominated me, or submitted me or knocked me out, that's one thing. Okay, he fought an undefeated prospect, and you weren't ready for it. He was better than you, but to lose a fight and not feel like he was better than you, to feel like he escaped out of there and did just what he had to do, held on long enough to win and lose a fight where he didn't get hit, it really motivates you to go in there and put on a show and a performance, the next fight, and show, hey, I'm not a guy that's going to get held down and grounded out for a couple of rounds. The guys are going to squeak wins away against me. So that's what I learned in that fight for sure.
Now, your fight at RFA 19 is against Jordan Griffin. What can you tell us about him?
Jordan Griffin's a real, he's a well-rounded fighter he's explosive. He's a good athlete. He moves fast. He's got good striking. Obviously, he's under a great coach, Duke Rufus, over at the Rufus Sport Academy in Milwaukee. And he goes after it, looking at some of his fights. We fought on the same card actually, last December, and he's the guy that brings it. He goes after it every time, and he's on a good win streak. I think he's won 6 or 7 fights in a row. So, he's a guy that brings it. He's got good wrestling as well, and he's submitted a few guys, so he's not just a striker, but I know he's real good at that. But a guy that's going to bring it for sure, you know, and it's, I think, going to be an exciting fight, a barn burner. You know, I think he's motivated. It's his first fight for the RFA and a national organization. Obviously, he wants to come in and make a statement over a guy who's fought there a couple of times. It's my third fight with them, and I'm a guy that's, you know, coming off a loss. I felt like, you know, I should have won that fight, and I need to prove myself to not only the RFA, but some fans and say, hey, you know, this is a guy we want to come and watch. This is a finisher. This is a guy that's going to put guys away. So I think it's going to be a great fight against a top-level guy, Jordan Griffin, who definitely earned this spot.
All right, Dan, I'll get you out of here with this. There's some other big fights on the card besides yours at RFA 19 on October 10th. And I was wondering, are you looking forward to watching any of the other fights on that card?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I got a few of my teammates, a couple of the guys from down in my hometown, Mankato, Brian Mortensen, who's a guy I started out with way back when in the amateur ranks and stuff. He's on the card, you know, fighting the amateur portion of it, and then also John Castaneda, a guy from I think you had on the show earlier this week, who's a real exciting fighter who's got a rematch against a tough guy, Matt Brown. So those are a couple of the fights I'm really looking forward to. And then I got three of my teammates from up here at the Minnesota Martial Arts Academy fighting as well. So it's going to be a great you know, night for me. It's fun to get to fight myself and then see my teammates also on the big stage, and my boy Carl Deaton, who's out of the Alliance right now, but he's in the co-main event against Curran, and that's a fight that's going to be great. Obviously, Curran's a vet and's been around, fought everybody and everywhere, and Carl's just a guy who's worked so hard lately and has come up, and a super talented kid who's very hungry. He's going to come after it, and I think that's going to be one of the fight of the night contender for sure.
He is Dan Moret. He will be fighting Jordan Griffin at RFA 19 on October 10th. On Access TV starting at 10 p.m. Eastern. Dan, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it and wish you the best of luck on the 10th against Mr. Griffin.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, and thanks for having me on the show.
Once again, that was Dan Moret right here on Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks.